good.
I think we should just be grateful that they haven't broken anything, because they're at that stage of the house of cards that is D&D 5th edition, where every new card adds just like a lot of risk.
Well, thank you for that segue, Will, because next we have Silvery Barbs.
Welcome to Monsters Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Ellie Odie.
I'm Jared Bornagle.
And I'm Will Meldon.
And we'll be hanging out with you for a while to talk about anything and everything D&D related. On this episode, we are taking a look at the new character options in Strixhaven, a curriculum of chaos. Ooh. So specifically, 1 new race, 2 feats, and 5 spells. It's a new content episode. So Jared, take it away.
Yeah, before we get started, just wanted to give everyone a heads up that we are going to be taking a 2-week break after this, just for Christmas and New Year's, and not wanting to compete with other people's time for family and such. Like, just nothing gets any views. If you're looking for something to watch or listen to, please go listen to the Christmas episode. Nobody has. I'm still pushing it. It's been 3 years. One of these days.
One of our higher effort episodes too. Like we built like a level 20 Santa character and made the character sheet and everything.
Flopped so hard.
Yep. It was like 200 listens.
I think recently I checked, we're up to 400 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think our an announcement of saying, hey, we're just switching to 2-week thing has more views than the Christmas episode.
Yes, it does.
And that's not even a relevant announcement anymore because we're back to every week.
People still listen to it.
Yes.
Just to get more of us. Anyways, let's move on to the Owlin to start off here. So the Owlins actually don't have much in terms of, we'll say, lore or history in this book. It gives more of a physical description, but to read basically one of the few paragraphs they've got, it says, distant kin of giant owls from the Feywild, Owlin come in many shapes and sizes, from petite and fluffy to wide-winged and majestic. Owlin have arms and legs like other humanoids, as well as wings that extend from their back and shoulders. And that's like about it in terms of flavor, which I thought was a little bit odd, just because if you look at the Aarakocra, for example, that has literally 2 full pages of history and lore about the culture of Aarakocras. And you don't really see that with this.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing. I'm wondering if it's peppered in throughout the adventure, because this is it's like a setting and adventure book. And if it's kind of throughout there, I did kind of try and skim it. I didn't find anything. If it is in there, it's not just like a chapter title, like click here to learn about Owlin or something.
Sure, and even just from like a how books should be structured perspective, I don't want to have to go searching for that information. I want to be like, oh, I want to play an Owlin, and then find everything that I need about how to play one. But, just from the basics of an owl race, that's cool. I mean, I like owls.
Sure, it's neat.
But that's all they're giving me, so, like, what am I supposed to comment on?
There's 2 more sentences beneath the art. You missed it. Like owls, Owlin are graced with feathers that make no sound when they move or fly, making it easy for them to sneak up on you in the library.
Okay.
Also, your Owlin character might be nocturnal, or perhaps your character is simply prone to rise later. There we go. Embodying the common nickname of a night owl.
Yeah, so, I know we're not, reviewing Strixhaven as a book, but this feels pretty low effort. And I'm pretty disappointed by it. There was a lot of hype, I know, for the Owlin race. And if I was really...
Was there like a lot of hype for the Owlin race?
Yeah. I mean, in the places that I traverse, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Aarakocra kind of covers it. It's like, it's so easy to just, I know the default art is like the Aarakocra are kind of like eagles, but they could just be owls. And nothing else has to change.
You're saying that they could have just said, hey, this is a variant of Aarakocras.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know people do that. I've seen, parrot Aarakocras and raven Aarakocras, and that stuff's kind of neat.
Those are cool. Yeah. So, no, I agree. This didn't really seem like it was a necessary thing to add. But to go over some of the racial traits here, we have, you are a humanoid. That's kind of obvious, but this part is interesting. For size, you can be either medium or small. You can choose which one you want. And that I think is pretty cool because it's either what fits your character idea, or if you've got a class that I guess works better as a small race. Like if you want to be a rogue Owlin, then maybe it's better to be small so you can hide behind things easier.
It's just, it gives you no other benefit. There's no feature later on where it says, if you're small, then this gets better, or you get this option or something. Any other small race, their features are really good to make up for it.
Yeah.
Because usually there's some downsides to being small, like in terms of grappling and trip attacks and shoves, you're really limited on what you could do. You can't carry heavy weapons. So I would look for more to choose small. So I guess it would just be a pure flavor.
Right. Yeah, and I guess that's pretty fair. With the focus of this book, and I'm going to make some guesses, this Owlin race as well, being more arcane in nature. I don't expect an Owlin to normally be a barbarian.
That's fair. But you could.
But you could. Like, nothing is stopping you, just that.
They wouldn't be a bad barbarian.
I know, it'd probably be pretty good.
Yeah. Especially because this just goes to the default ability score increase. You can increase score by 2 in a different 1 by 1 or 3 scores by 1. So you could absolutely have an Owlkin with 2 strength and 1 con.
I was going to say, it doesn't actually...
Owlin, not Owlkin.
Where does it... Oh, yeah, that is...
If you scroll, It's the same boilerplate stuff we saw in Fizzbonds, and I assume what we're going to be seeing and everything. Pick a language, your creature type is humanoid unless said otherwise, here's their lifespan, that sort of stuff.
Right. Okay. And... yeah, otherwise they get some dark vision, pretty good dark vision. It's 120 feet, and that makes sense. They're owls.
Yeah, double the average.
Right.
The typical.
And then, of course, they get a flying speed, and it is a little bit different than the Aarakocras. Aarakocras as a base have 50 feet of flying speed, whereas these just match your walking speed. Same stipulations, though, as the Aarakocras, where you cannot get the flying speed if you're wearing medium or heavy armor. And admittedly, I've totally forgotten that was a stipulation. Like, I've been really, negative on the Aarakocras. Like, oh, yeah, the flying, it makes everything so easy, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's really just good if you're like a monk. Or a rogue, maybe. Or, I guess a caster. But
a caster. It's good for a lot of things.
For a lot of things.
Or any kind of dex.
Barbarian. I mean, yeah. What was that, Will?
Dex. I mean,
yeah.
If you're wearing light armor, it's fine.
Yeah. Or a barbarian, too, without any armor.
Now, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's still good. It's still good. There's like 2 things it's not good
fighters
for.
And paladins shouldn't be them.
And clerics.
And how you could be a dex fighter and still do it.
But then your armor class is so low, and it's like, just throw on the medium armor.
You can be a dex fighter.
You can get like 18, I think.
Yeah,
maybe
but
17. Yeah.
But if you're flying, I guess I'm thinking you're going to do range stuff, and most range things are 2-handed, so you can't have a shield as well. But I guess when like half of the combatants can't hit you, having a 17 AC isn't as big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, we have Silent Feathers. You have proficiency in the stealth skill. It's definitely a good one to have proficiency in. But that's it.
Yeah, I'm really lukewarm on this. Like, it's fine. It's uninspired. I know that sounds always really pretentious to say, but this is truly just feels uninspired. It's just
and I'm not sure if this is a product of them trying to put less weight on the racial aspects of the class, or of I guess races as a feature.
Then explain Fizzbonds like from last month.
Right, they still had a lot of flavor.
Crazy
for that.
Dragonborn.
Well, as I was going to say, is that like regardless of the features, I mean, I'm fine with the features. It's fine. It about matches an Aarakocra. It's not great. It's not horrible. My main disappointment is really just that they didn't spend any time on developing the culture of these, which seems to ignore the entire reason why people wanted the stats to be disassociated from races. It's like, oh, I want to choose the culture, and I don't want to have these like just, I don't know, negative aspects or whatever. Just I want to have more freedom with my character choices. And then we get this, and it's like, well, you can play an owl, and that's all you're getting. You're not getting any flavor. You're not getting anything besides sneaky feathers.
Yep.
So,
and they can fly. Clearly, in terms of mechanically, they're just banking on the flight being good enough, so they don't really give it anything else interesting.
Sure.
It's flight at level 1, so here you go.
Yeah. Well, I'm again lukewarm on it. If this is what you've been waiting for from D&D 5th edition, then here you go. You've got it. Next up is Feats, so I'll let you take that away.
Yes, Feats. So these are 2 new feats added here. They can follow the exact same rules as any other feats. Pick them at any level where you get an ability score improvement. Pick these over feats, or there's a couple special ways you could get them. The first is Strixhaven Initiate. You have studied some magical theory and have learned a few spells associated with Strixhaven University. One of the Strixhaven's colleges, choose one of the Strixhaven's colleges, Lorehold, Prismari, Quandrix, Silverquill, or Witherbloom. You learn 2 cantrips, and 1 first-level spell based on the college you choose is specified in the Strixhaven spells table, which is below, and we'll get to it in a second. You can cast the chosen first-level spell with a spell slot, and you must finish a long rest before you can cast it again in this way. You could also cast the spell using any spell slots you have. Your spellcasting ability for this feat spell is Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma, which you choose when you select this feat. It's Magic Initiate, just reflavor for Strixhaven. It's quite literally the exact same wording and how it works. Just with Magic Initiate, you choose a caster, and then you pick a first-level spell and 2 cantrips from their list. This one, you pick a college, and then you get to pick from a slimmed-down list.
So there's a little bit of a difference that I picked up on. It's the fact that you can have your spellcasting modifier match whichever you want and have a different spell list to choose from. So if you want to be a wizard that has Cure Wounds and use your intelligence as the modifier, then you can go into the Lorehold College and you get Light, Sacred Flame, or whatever, and then you choose that one spell and you choose Cure Wounds or Healing Word. And for that reason, I guess it is a little bit different than Magic Initiate.
That's true. Okay, and that's neat. Yeah, because Magic Initiate says the spellcasting modifier is the spellcasting modifier of the class that you picked from. So if you picked Wizard, it has to be Intelligence. So yeah, cool little variation on it.
I'd say it's actually a little bit more powerful. Well, it is more powerful than Magic Initiate because of that.
Yeah, but the cantrips are more limited. You don't just any 2 cantrips. If you're in the video, we'll have the table up on the screen. I'm not gonna. We won't read it through in detail, but Lorehold, the cantrips, you could choose between Light, Sacred Flame, and Thaumaturgy. If you go Silverquill, also Sacred Flame and Thaumaturgy. We're going to pick another. If you go Witherbloom, Witherbloom, Chill Touch, Druidcraft, and Spare the Dying. So it's a more limited cantrip list. And then it's choose 1 first-level Druid spell or Wizard spell or whatever it says. Yeah, it's Magic Initiate. Reflavor for Strixhaven, a little more flexibility with one way, less flexibility in the other. I think the biggest thing is the Strixhaven backgrounds, which we're not covering in detail because we usually don't really cover backgrounds, give you this for free.
Right.
So you could choose a Strixhaven background where you are in one of these colleges, and then as part of that background, you get this feat with that college chosen.
Yeah. I think
that's the main reason it's here.
Right. And this definitely is pretty powerful. I mean, about as, again, equally as powerful, if in some situations a little more powerful than Magic Initiate. But the fact that you can get it as a background is huge and something that you would probably need to talk to your DM about before just bringing to the table, because it is getting a free feat. And that's pretty extreme. The fact that you can just get Shield, once per day, or the new Silvery Barbs that we'll be talking about in a moment, once per day.
I guess you could pick Shield. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. If you go with a wizard spell, then or cleric, is it Shield on the cleric list? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Either way, you can find a way to get Shield off of this, and that might add it to a class that normally doesn't have it, because once you know the spell, you can cast it with your regular spell slots. So while it's not very powerful like a barbarian who's going to be raging and you can't cast spells while raging, for a druid who normally can't get Shield and then now has access to it, that's pretty nice.
Right.
And again, getting it at first level as a background. it's just, it's not in my eyes the intention of these backgrounds. They are supposed to be, if you're playing in Strixhaven where it's high magic, it makes it feel more high magic.
Right.
But if somebody came to like Adventure League and they're like, yeah, I chose this background, its rules is written, it's fine, I'd be pretty miffed.
Say, outside of Adventure League, any just kind of home table or whatever, I would think most DMs would kind of say, unless you have a really strong reason of why you would have that background. It's like I'm a fighter. I grew up on a farm and my town got raided by monsters. And so I took up the sword to help travel the land and defend it. Oh, and I'm a Strixhaven initiate. Just
like, I don't even have a Strixhaven. I don't have a wizard college at all in my world. Like, oh, well, I just picked up some things.
Yeah. So, yeah, as you said, I like it a lot for if you were playing this in Strixhaven, this campaign, or it's just a big part of your world and, it's high magic world, sure. It's just like a readily available background and thus free feat. It's a little weird.
Yeah.
Little much. All right, and then the next feat is Strixhaven Mascot. It has two prerequisites. You need to be 4th level, and you need the Strixhaven Initiate feat, which is kind of a rare thing. You don't really see that much, if at all.
Not rare. This is the first time that this has come up. As I understand, it's pretty common in 3rd and 3.5, and Pathfinder as well does these prerequisites pretty often, but 5th edition hasn't touched it at all. Yeah,
my understanding is feats for all those systems were more prevalent, and they were more like feat trees, where you like build this, then pick that and that sort of thing, like kind of talent trees.
Yeah,
as opposed to standalone feats.
I definitely like it, and I guess it's not fair to say that there's no prerequisites. That is a thing, but this is the first level prerequisite, and like having a previous feat prerequisite.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's interesting. I like the concept. Honestly, it's.
I didn't read it yet. Are you still talking about the prerequisites?
Yes,
okay,
I'm still talking about. I know we're not there yet. No, I like the concept of that, but it definitely adds a layer of complexity in 5th edition that is normally avoided. This one is like really, really low complexity. It's literally just the only other feat in this book, and would be pretty fitting to get next if you had all of these prerequisites. But
right,
I don't know if I want to see more of it or if I don't want to see more of it. I guess I want to see more UA of it.
That's fair. All right, so Strixhaven Mascot. You have learned to summon a Strixhaven Mascot to assist you, granting these benefits. You can cast Find Familiar as a ritual. The Familiar could take a form of a mascot associated with the college you choose from the Strixhaven Initiate feat. So if you're Lorehold, you get a Spirit Statue, Prismari, an Art Elemental mascots, Quandrix, a Fractal mascot, Silverquill, an Inkling, and Witherbloom, a Pest mascot. And we will go through those stat blocks because that's pretty critical to this. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can forego one of your attacks to allow your mascot familiar to make one attack on its own with its reaction. And if your mascot familiar is within 60 feet of you, you could teleport as an action, swapping places with the familiar. If your destination space is too small, it fails and it's wasted, you can do this once per long rest, or you can spend a 2nd level spell slot or higher to do it again. So before diving into the stat blocks, even just the a free Find Familiar, which you can do as a ritual, is great. Find Familiar is just a good spell to have. Being able to attack with the familiar, and then these familiars being good enough to actually want to attack, is awesome. And then the teleport swapping. I mean, it's basically like a free Misty Step once a day.
Yeah.
And then continuing to be able to do it for a 2nd level spell, which is what Misty Step is, without having to have it prepared or chosen or whatever.
Yeah, the only thing I would argue with is I don't think the foregoing one of your attacks to allow your familiar to make an attack is really going to prove worthwhile in many, if any, situations. I mean, unless you have 2 attacks and you can forego one, it's rarely going to be better for them to do their attacks, because it's not like they can just take any of their actions. Most of them have like a little special action that they can do that doesn't fall under the attacks. So we're talking about like a +4 to hit with an average of 5 damage on most of these, give or take 1 in either direction. It's not that impressive.
That's right. Yeah, I was considering it's like its other action as part of that. You could forego an attack to have it do, but it just needs to do it on its own turn.
Yeah.
Which would find familiars have their own initiative.
Exactly.
On their own.
So, most times I don't know why you'd do that.
Yeah.
But you get other benefits. I mean, you can still do the whole casting a spell through your familiar, though, can't you? Or is that...
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. You get the regular find familiar
you haven't
spell. So, yeah, you could...
done that once. And like,
it hasn't come up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any healing spells or anything. That's like the main reason to do it. And then if I'm buffing somebody, it's like at the beginning of combat, and we're all just right there.
Sure.
And so then I have all this, I'm a rogue tabaxi. I can move like 700 feet around if I need to. And if you do it through it, you have to, if the familiar is not already within 5 feet to touch the person, you have to ready your spell and then wait for the familiar to get within range. And that's always really risky.
Right.
Because then you could waste the spell and waste a turn and then. So it's, doesn't come up a ton. For me, at least.
Right. I know that is not saying that it is not worthwhile, just for your specific character hasn't come up much.
Right. So these new stat blocks, we're not going to read them in full detail here, but they're pretty solid for familiars and really neat. I really like the flavor of them. So like the Spirit Statue mascot has 26 hit points for like a 4th level familiar is awesome. Unfortunately, it doesn't scale at all, which kind of sucks. And only 14 AC. But then each one has like a real basic attack, which is nothing all that special. Its stats are pretty middling. They do have skills, so you could, I guess, in theory, have this familiar, and I guess I could do that with any familiar, attempt skill checks for you.
I guess. That gets really weird, especially when the Spirit Statue mascot has Arcana, History, and Perception. Perception I can get, that's fine, but if you're using your familiar to make history checks, I feel like I'm going to hate that.
That's the point of this familiar.
Yeah, like
really?
It speaks. And it knows all languages anew in life. Yeah.
Okay.
It's literally
like
a reincarnated
on like a dead spirit,
historical figure.
Oh, okay. Yeah, reading the flavor.
So
You're like, hey, Cornelius, have you heard of this war? And he's like, yes, I've heard of this war. I fought in that war. It's like, thanks, Cornelius. That's what this thing's for.
Okay, I take it back. That is useful and makes this even better because now it's got 2 skills that you would not have had, potentially. I mean, Arcana you might, but either way, another chance to get an answer.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then like this one is a death burst. When it dies, it explodes and anything within 5 feet, you take 1d6 radiant damage. And then the council of the day, twice a day, it could give somebody a d4 for 10 minutes to add for like their next roll. So it's kind of like a free low-key bless.
Ability check, specifically.
Ability check, yes. Okay.
Yeah, and I was watching a Treant Monk video, and he was talking about the death burst and saying that it wouldn't come up on a familiar because when a familiar dies, it just disappears. But this one specifies when the spirit statue is reduced to 0 HP. So that would happen regardless of whether or not, like, it doesn't need to die. It would just crumble. So I gotta call up Treant Monk and ask him what he was talking about.
Yeah.
But that Council of the Past, I mean, all these, I don't know, pretty good.
For to have on a familiar, very great use.
The death burst is like no damage at all.
Yeah, 1d6.
1d6 on a DC 12 Constitution, and I think we can go to Will and ask how often do creatures succeed your DC 17 con save?
Too often.
Yeah. So, I don't know how much use that's really getting.
Mm-hmm. Next is the Art Elemental mascot. Also has a death burst, but this one will blind creatures. But it's a DC 11 con save. It's even worse.
And this one says when the elemental dies, not when it hits 0 HP.
Sure. I mean, I think the intent is the familiar would do this.
I guess, but like, then why wouldn't all of the wording be when it hits 0 HP?
I don't know. Different people wrote it. Things could be inconsistent.
That's what an editor's for. I can't believe you are the most pedantic person I know, and the fact that this doesn't bother you is bothering me in a different way.
I didn't say it doesn't bother me. I'm saying I'm thinking the intent is that the death burst function on these familiars.
Okay. Whatever. Move on.
I don't know. Tweet Jeremy Crawford. This is a new enough book. He might still be responding to those.
No, he blocked me.
Oh.
It's not true.
All right. Yeah. So this one has a melee attack and a ranged attack, just basic stuff. And then captivating artistry. It's a once-a-day thing. It targets a creature within 30 feet. The creature makes a DC 12 charisma saving throw, or be charmed for a minute. And can repeat its at each of its turns. So nothing too crazy there. It's just charmed against the familiar. So it can't attack it.
Right, and that's it. That's it. It just can't attack you.
Right. Then it will have advantage on charisma social checks, but it can't speak.
Yeah, that seems bad, actually.
Yeah.
That's very bad.
For a once-a-day ability, have one creature, can't attack it for probably one round. I don't get it.
Okay. I don't like this art elemental mascot even a little bit.
The art's neat.
The art is neat. It looks like a bronze statue of some sort. Not statue, I guess. Metalwork of some sort. Like the twisted copper. I feel like this is an art form.
I think those are flames.
Right, but it looks like that, I'm saying.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Like twisted metal.
Yeah. All right, then you get the fractal mascots. This is another one of 27 hit points, so really up there. I think this one's really cool. It's kind of like a big fractal snake with like a bunch of crystals and stuff coming off of it. It has relative density. It can move through creatures and objects as if they were difficult terrain. I just can't end its turn there. Otherwise, it takes some damage. And it could vary in size. As a bonus action, it could augment itself, where it could grow or shrink in a size category, which is really cool. I don't see that too much. And it can go up to huge. And if it's medium or bigger, strength checks at saving throws with advantage. Nothing too crazy there.
That sounds like it would be useful for solving some puzzle, maybe, like being able to grow or shrink it. Like at some point, that'd be useful.
Well, and then the damage. So it has this quantum strike, regular melee attack, only has +3 to hit. It does 1d4 +1 force damage, or 2d4. Oh, I thought it was and. Shit, that's just an extra d4 in damage. So if it's medium or bigger, it does an extra d4. I thought it was an and. I just like the flavor of it, like you get in combat with the small Owlin wizard who seems very unassuming, and the snake comes out of its pocket that just grows to this huge thing. But the mechanics don't really back that.
No, I mean, one thing that I like about this one, though, is that it has scaling. And that's just a scale joke. It doesn't actually get better.
Okay, yeah.
Otherwise, nope, also not that impressive. I mean, again, it's just familiar, so at the end of the day, they're never going to be so impressive. But I do think that for this specific book, it's totally fine, and you will get use out of these, because the book itself is like a 1 to 10 adventure.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So for most of it, you're probably going to be levels, again, 1 through, 8, and then you just have like the end. And I think around that point, this will still be worthwhile. It's an extra attack. As long as it can take a hit or two, then that's a major benefit. We always talk about how, anything that you can have that takes damage that you don't have to take, that's a positive. That's a good thing.
Right. And then it has out of combat utility, like all familiars do. Right. Scouting and stuff like that. Like you can see through its eyes and relay information.
Right. So it's definitely worthwhile.
Yeah. Then you have the Inkling mascot. It's amorphous. It could pass through space, narrow as 1 inch wide without squeezing. Basic attack. Then it has an ink spray where it inks a creature within 15 feet of itself. They must succeed on DC 12 con save or be blinded until the end of an Inkling's next turn. And then while in dim light or darkness, the Inkling takes the hide action.
As a bonus action.
Yes.
Yeah. One thing that I was just thinking of is they have all these once per day abilities. If you use that and then kill your familiar, just knock it down to 0 HP, and then summon a new one, would that ability reset? Or is it the same familiar, and so you just because officially it's supposed to be the same familiar. You're not killing it outright. It's disappearing.
Right, and then you resummon it.
I feel like this is an instance like the Warlocks where you're given a specific familiar. It's not, I don't see anything explicit about that, but that's the flavor I get.
Yeah. So I would err on the side of no, it's a once per day ability, so even if it dies and comes back, you already used it.
Yeah. And finally, to wrap these ones up, Pest Mascot. This one has Regenerate, so Pest regains 5 hit points at the start of its turn. If it at least has 1, if it takes fire damage, it doesn't function. Spiny Hide, if something's grappling it, it deals 1d4 piercing damage. I don't know why somebody would take the time to grapple this tiny
spike-covered worm.
You're right. And then it has a really low bite.
Yeah, it's just a little nibble.
So,
+4 to hit, 1d4 +2 piercing damage. It's got a lot of health, though, with the regeneration.
This is the defective mascot that nobody wants.
Is this the Hufflepuff house?
It's kind of cute.
So what you're saying is you want him?
Yeah.
It is kind of cute. It's tiny. Like, the art makes it look terrifying, like this worm that's going to devour you, but it's probably like this big.
Oh, that's even cuter. It's a big, 2 inches.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the size of a cat.
Yeah, it could be. It probably is, because it also has a speed of 30 feet.
I've seen some fast inchworms.
Yeah.
They race those.
So yeah, those are the new familiar options for the Strixhaven mascot Feats. Some better than others. Overall, just more versatility with your familiar. Very flavorful. As we pointed out, some are not really that great, but you are kind of forced. I don't think it'd be worth picking a different Strixhaven college for the sake of picking out your mascot.
Yeah. Because
you're kind of forced into whatever you picked in your Strixhaven Initiate. Pick that based on whatever your character is, and then you kind of get the mascot you get.
Yeah. None of them are so good that... Well, actually, I'm going to take that back. The Spirit Statue mascot seems like it's actually pretty worthwhile. The ability to twice a day give a D4 to somebody, and the +5 to Arcana history, that actually is, I think, undoubtedly the best one here. It also has the highest armor class and one of the higher hit point values at 26. I think the others were 27 was the highest. So not that I'm saying you should pick based on optimization in here, but if you were going to, I think there's a clear winner.
Right. Though its twice a day ability is just guidance, which is a cantrip that I imagine a lot of people in this Strixhaven party would have.
It's possible. Only one of them, the Quandrix, is the only one that can give you guidance.
I just mean because there's a good chance they're going to be spellcasters, and so they'll just have guidance.
But only clerics and bards get guidance, right?
I don't think so.
It's definitely not a wizard spell.
Cleric, druid, artificer.
Oh, okay, so not even bards. Yeah, so it's possible you don't have one of those three in the party.
Okay. That's true.
But another thing where I probably wouldn't allow this unless there was unless I was either playing this campaign or this setting or somebody specifically went to a magic school. These are definitely feats that have flavor tied to them, and I don't think I'm just going to say, hey, this is open to pick for anybody whenever. It's really specific.
I agree. Yeah. Good for this book.
Good for this book. Yeah, and that's fine. That's what it's trying to do.
Yes. All right, moving on then. Spells.
Right. So, for spells, we have 5 new spells. We got Silvery Barbs, Borrowed Knowledge, Kinetic Jaunt, Vortex Warp, and then Wither and Bloom, which we'll be going through in a different order because I'm going to treat them alphabetical. But I looked at a table and I read them from there. All right, so let's go ahead and start with Borrowed Knowledge. This is a 2nd level divination spell, and it is on the Bard, Cleric, Warlock, and Wizard list. It is a range of self, has verbal, somatic, and material components, one of them being a book worth at least 25 gold, and takes an hour to... it lasts for an hour. It only takes an action to cast. So this is you draw on knowledge from spirits of the past. Choose one skill in which you lack proficiency. For the spell's duration, you have proficiency in the chosen skill. The spell ends early if you cast it again.
Great.
Yeah. It's pretty good. I mean, for 2nd level, being able to get a proficiency, I don't mind the balance aspect of it. I've got one little nitpick, and that's just that I don't like the idea of a wizard and Bard, Cleric, Warlock, Wizard. Bards don't really, this doesn't matter for them, but I don't like the idea of everyone being able to access a spell that gets them proficiency in something, because spellcasters already get so much and so much out of combat utility that I feel like this just continues to widen the gap between martial characters and spellcasters. It's not like the biggest complaint in the world, but it's more of just like, was this necessary? Is this filling a niche that wasn't already there? Or are wizards fine as it is? And they don't need to be able to proficient in, stealth, and they don't need to be proficient in persuasion. And I know that other classes are going to have higher skill values in it, because even if they're not proficient, they've got their actual ability mod, but it still just feels like why do they need this?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I do like the spell. I think it fills a good niche and will get a lot of use, but 100%, full casters don't really need to start stepping on the skill domain as well.
Right.
And we also, if it could be cast on if it had to be cast on someone else.
Yes, but it is self only.
Yeah. I don't think it's like breaking the game by any means. It's just like, I don't think it needs to be banned or something from the table.
I don't think it's impacting the game at all. I think it's just kind of fun.
Yeah.
Like,
I think it could be really useful.
And I have books about all this stuff. That's actually really good for a wizard character.
It is. Yeah, it's very flavorful in that sense. I think it will have a lot of uses. Like I said, all right, stealth's coming up. The wizard's not good at it. They cast this and now they're proficient in stealth. For Arcane Trickster, I think this could be a crazy spell for like a higher level. Once you get on the 11th level, they get reliable talent, just rogues do. And they get to treat any skill where they get to add the proficiency bonus. Any skill of a 9 or lower is treated as a 10, or it's 10 or lower is treated as 11, one of those. And this will satisfy that. So not only can you give yourself proficiency in that skill, and Arcane Tricksters should be able to pick the spell. I know they're limited on type, but then they get a free one as well.
I think divination is one of those types, isn't it? It's enchantment or illusion.
Okay. But they get a free one too, right?
Yeah, and then they get
every
free
few
ones,
levels. Yes. Yeah, so not only could you give yourself +4 to a skill you're generally not good at, you now all of a sudden have a minimum of 15 on that, or whatever it works out to. So it's a huge jump.
Yeah, that would be really good. Great for any type of skill monkey character. The limitation, of course, being that you need to know that you're going to need this skill beforehand, but that's the same limitation as like guidance, and I feel like most times it's not a big deal.
Just an action to cast.
Yeah, I personally feel like a lot of times it's just a weird interaction at the table where, for example, you'll say, oh, make a history check, and then somebody says, oh, I cast guidance on myself. It's like, that's not really how memory recollection works. I don't get to like, oh, I'm about to think about something. I'm about to try and recall it. Everybody,
let me take my fish oil pills.
Right, exactly. Like, it just feels a little bit odd in those situations. But if it's like, oh, we're about to climb a mountain, I'm going to give myself athletics proficiency.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense, and I've got no qualms there.
Yep.
But
overall,
overall,
spell?
I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you, Will. Like, yes, it's not breaking the game that much. I agree with, but I also don't know if it just doesn't feel necessary. Makes me feel gross.
All right, next spell, Kinetic Jaunt. This is on the Artificer, Bard, Sorcerer, and Wizard list. It's a second level transmutation spell. This one's a bonus action, another range of self. It just has somatic components, and it's concentration up to a minute. You magically empower your movement with dance-like steps, giving yourself the following benefits for the duration. Your walking speed increases by 10 feet, you don't provoke opportunity attacks, and you can move through the space of another creature, and it doesn't count as difficult terrain. If you end your turn in another creature's space, you're shunted and you take some force damage, 1d8 force damage.
It's kind of like a freedom of movement light.
Yeah. I'm kind of bored of these spells. I think this is now the fourth spell where like the main thing is like you get to move faster and don't provoke opportunity attacks. Yeah, you get freedom of movement. You still provoke opportunity attacks actually, so that doesn't count. But then you have Zephyr Strike, and then in Fizz Bonds, I'm blanking on the name, but it's like A's start with an A something, where you're like you move and speed
blow up time.
Speedy boots blow up time.
Yes. Yeah, where it's a third level spell, I think, and your speed increases by 20 feet. You don't provoke opportunity attacks, and you leave a flame trail wherever you go. It's just another variation on that.
Ashardalon's Stride.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. I am pretty underwhelmed by it. It's not that it's a bad spell by any means. And
no.
Say it's on the wizard spell list, so this is something they didn't have before. I don't really know if it's going to be worth your concentration in most situations. And if you're just trying to get out of a bad situation at this exact moment, I would much rather teleport in some way. Misty Step, that familiar teleportation that they have with that feat, if you've got it. It would be really low on my pick list.
Sure. Certain artificers could be good with it. Like Battlesmith, or Armorer could get it. Certain bards like Swords Bard, any melee bard. And then since it's on the wizard lists, Eldritch Knights could pick this, and so can Arcane Tricksters. And second level's not crazy for them. Third level, that other one is pretty high, but so I think it get uses again. There's just, I guess maybe it's rounding it out because Zephyr Strike I think is Ranger only,
and fifth level, isn't it? Or is that?
That's a first level spell.
Oh, okay.
Zephyr Strike. That's when it doesn't increase your movement speed. You just don't get opportunity attacks. Then you could do like one souped up movement where you double it and get attacks with advantage. But
right, I always mix up Zephyr Strike and the Steel Wind Strike.
Oh yeah, Steel Wind Strike's something else.
Yeah, very.
That's yeah.
And
so yeah, I guess it rounds it out. Of now, I think if needed, every class in the game that has access to spells could cast something where they will not provoke opportunity attacks when they move.
I guess I'm just going to be the stickler this episode because I don't think every class should have the exact same options. And sometimes it's nice when spell lists feel different. I like that druids have AoE and concentration spells and wizards have a lot of single target damage spells. I don't think everything needs to have the same spell list. So
totally.
I don't hate it. It's not breaking the game, but it's like, didn't need this. I'm not like, oh my gosh, finally the spell we've been waiting for.
Yeah. Yeah, the Fizzbond spell.
I don't like that attitude because it just like it compels them to just not add stuff.
Good.
I think we should just be grateful that they haven't broken anything because they're at that stage of the house of cards that is D&D 5th edition where every new card adds just like a lot of risk.
Well, thank you for that segue, Will, because next we have Silvery Barbs. Silvery Barbs is on the Bard, Sorcerer, and Wizard spell list. The casting time is 1 reaction. It's a first level spell. And it's, again, 1 reaction which you can take when a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself succeeds on an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Has a range of 60 feet, only verbal components, it's instantaneous, and the text reads, you magically distract the triggering creature and turn its momentary uncertainty into encouragement for another creature. The triggering creature must re-roll the d20 and use the lower roll. You can then choose a different creature you can see within range. You could choose yourself. The chosen creature has advantage on the next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw it makes within 1 minute. A creature can be empowered by only 1 use of this spell at a time.
That's a really great 4th level spell.
I agree. If this was 3rd or 4th level,
3rd, 4th,
then it would probably be fine. As a
first level, go on.
As a 1st level spell, this is so overpowered. It is ridiculous. And one thing that I particularly hate is that the language of the triggering creature must reroll the d20 and use the lower roll, and this is after a success. So if a creature has advantage and they succeed, you can then have them roll again and take the lower roll. Over a 1st level spell.
Yep, and then give someone else, yourself or someone else in the party, advantage on the next thing you do.
Yeah.
Within a minute. And yeah, given like a disadvantage on an attack roll is comparable to shield, because there's
the math
people
of it,
smarter than
yes.
us have worked out the math. It comes out to -5, a disadvantage basically. Which is, hey, shield adds +5 to your AC. Shield will then protect you for the round. This is just one attack or ability check. But then you could do it on saving throws, which is insane.
Right. It is your next,
That's
though.
the
You
big
don't get
one.
to choose. But, you're saying you could give them disadvantage on saving throws. Yes.
Yes, I mean, there's so many spells in 5th edition that are very save or suck. Luckily, they got rid of the save or die spells. Those are until you get to like 9th level type stuff. 9th level spells. But there's still a ton of spells where it's based around the save. And it's like, if this save goes off, it's like, all right, that's probably encounter over. That enemy's out of it. We got this. If it doesn't, that's then actually putting us on the back foot because I just blew my 5th level spell and I wasted an action. And that's balanced around sometimes those saves are not passed. And so it's pretty rare to be able to give disadvantage on your saves. Sorcerers could do it with meta magic, and I think it's 3 meta magic points, which is insanely expensive. Here, the 1st level spell as a reaction, and you could do it after you know they've passed. So you're not even going to waste it, necessarily.
Yep. So how about that house of cards?
It's nuts. Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't take this is a big, big dummy. And that's actually my biggest problem with it.
Yeah, it's a must-have.
Right, like we're comparing it to Shield, which I've come to terms with Shield, but it is arguably the best 1st level spell. And the fact that we are comparing it to it when it is... Actually, let me take that back. It is inarguably the best 1st level spell. Shield is amazing, and it is almost always a must pick. So when you have another one that we're introducing, when it's like we're 7 years into 5th edition, and these are lessons that I feel like should have already been learned, and making something that is this powerful, again, as a 1st level spell, it's just... I can't stand for it. I'm just upset.
Yeah, and it's not... I wouldn't even say it's comparable to Shield. I'd say it is better than Shield.
Yeah, and I would agree. So...
Because, not only do you effectively get the same effect of imposing disadvantage after you know something has hit or succeeded, you then pass on advantage to someone else. Yeah.
This gets a ban from me.
Yeah.
Big old ban stamp.
You were, not one to do that lightly for non-flavor reasons.
No, yeah. I mean, like, it's ridiculous, and I don't want everybody to have this every single game. And also, it kind of disrupts the flow of everything. I don't hate it with bards. It's a class feature. I love bards, but the fact that this then turns into every time somebody rolls and succeeds, you have to like kind of wait for a second as a DM for somebody to say, "Oh, I'm going to use my silvery barbs. I'm going to do that. And I don't like that flow at the table.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, this would also be an amazing pick since it's on the wizard list for Eldritch Knights and Arcane Tricksters, especially because it does not use intelligence in any way, shape, or form. As long as they have access to it, it's the same as anyone else casting it.
Yeah.
And Arcane Tricksters would get access to this without the
having enchantment
for the level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the advantage on them would also be really, really, really spicy.
Oh, to like give yourself advantage for get a sneak attack.
Advantage. Yep, it's a great combo. And all of this just happens. There's no save. It's not like you try and do this and then the creature has to make a save, and if they fail, then they have to... would be a messy spell, so I understand why they didn't do that. But they should just not put this in the game at all.
Right. Not even a little bit.
Yeah. And I've seen whole videos and stuff pop up just trashing the spell. So I'm sure you could find more details and more ridiculous ways to break it. But yeah,
one thing
nuts.
I will bring up that I saw people talking about, just to kind of push this away, people were talking about this potentially gives you the chance to burn 2 legendary resistances instead of just 1. That doesn't make any sense. So if you see anybody spouting that, it's wrong.
As in, so like they roll a save, they fail, use a legendary resistance, and then you're saying you use silvery barbs to then force them to roll again or do another legendary resistance.
Yeah, but that's not how that works. The way that this works is when they succeed, that is the start of this, that you can then use this spell. They succeed, you then have them roll again, and if they fail, then they use a legendary resistance. Okay, so yes, you might turn a success into a failure, which burns a legendary resistance, but that's normal. I mean, there's no weird interactions there. People were talking about like, oh, well, if they fail and you make them re-roll and they fail again, like what? No, and regardless, legendary resistance says, if you fail, you succeed instead. It doesn't say, and then somebody can make you re-roll again.
I can see why people think that.
I know, and I'm dispelling
because the wording is succeed. Like, it uses the same word, succeed.
Sure.
If the dragon... I pulled up Ancient Red Dragon. If the dragon fails a saving throw, it could choose to succeed instead. That is the triggering effect.
Sure, but it doesn't matter.
And then it re-rolls, and it still succeeds.
Right, because it still used a legendary resistance.
Right, you're right. Yes, it would still just apply. So it's still just using up one.
Right. Like, it literally says, ignore the roll, and you succeed. That is...
No matter what, right. Yes. So it's good for burning them more, though, because if they just succeed like normal, you can then force a fail, and then they have to use one when they wouldn't have.
Yes, definitely agree with that. And that's why it's broken in the first place. It's not extra broken, though.
Right. It doesn't need to be more broken.
Right.
Thinking on this from my perspective, and we had this conversation about Musty. It's like I was like 14th level, using all my high level spells and just staring at this pool of level 1 and 2 spells that I just didn't have a use for. This as a reaction, in isolation, this isn't bad. If you do this 6 times in a battle, your DM is going to be losing years of his or her life. It just flat out. And you will. Like, I would dip into 2nd and even 3rd level spells just to abuse the crap out of this.
It's true. If you've got no other use for them, why not?
Right? Yeah,
and it doesn't interfere with your action, which is just brutal. And that's why Shield is so friggin' good.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that's more of a failing of the 1st and 2nd level druid spells, where they're not really that great. There's not much to do with them on a regular basis.
And everybody has that unless you've got really, really, really solid bonus action and reaction spells.
Like clerics. Healing word at 1st level, it's like, yeah, I'll throw that out, sure.
Well, especially as a life cleric, yeah.
Especially as a life cleric.
But yeah, this is a rough one, and I don't see any easy way to fix it other than to make it very high level, at which point it becomes a little bit middling, or just throw it out of the game entirely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just going to go with the throw it out. It's not necessary.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Personally, I'm throwing out this entire book, but it's just, I don't know.
No owls, no silvery barbs, none of it.
None of it. I don't know. I'm super down on this book. I've been upset with everything I've read. And I'm not like, oh my gosh, like finally my players have access to all these things that they've been asking for. It's just, If this never came out, if these options never came out, I don't think anybody would be upset, except for maybe Wither and Bloom, but we've got Vortex Warp to get through, so let's talk about that.
Yes, Vortex Warp. This is on... I gotta scroll back up. On the Artificer, Sorcerer, and Wizard spell list, it is a 2nd level conjuration spell, takes 1 action, range of 90 feet, components are verbal and somatic, and it's an instantaneous duration. You magically twist space around another creature you can see within range. The target must succeed on a con save, the target can choose to fail, or the target is teleported to an unoccupied space of your choice that you can see within range. The chosen space must be on a surface or in a liquid that can support a target without the target having to squeeze. You can upcast this, so using a spell slot of 3rd level or higher, the range increases by 30 feet for each up slot.
A lot of useful ways to use this. I think it's actually pretty neat. The idea of being able to teleport somebody from their safe position to right next to your barbarian is really funny. Or I guess the other way around. It's actually a lot more useful just to teleport your people into a good spot. Unless there's like...
It's more obviously useful.
Yes, more obviously useful.
Yeah, that can't fail. It just happens.
Right.
Which is nice. I mean, Misty Step's an awesome spell. It comes to talking and binding about obvious picks.
Yeah.
Second level spell, Misty Step, bonus action. I guess this is a whole action, though, which is a little rough.
It is... But it has more use. I mean, again, being able to teleport somebody else and further, much further.
Yes.
But the...
Yeah, 90 feet, yeah.
I will say there's just so many funny options for this. Like if the druid casts Maelstrom and then the wizard just goes, I'm going to pick you up and put you right in the center of that. Like, little things like that, it actually is pretty cool. So I think this in combination with other spells, like a wall of fire that's up, and they get across it, they finally run through it, and then you just go, nope, put you on the other side.
Yep.
You have to see it. So I guess you need to have your...
so
that's a little rough.
You could be an Owlin and fly. That would work.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about is Blade Barrier. We had that go up for the first time in anything we'd ever done, and it's like Wall of Fire, but really, really, really spicy on 6th level. And you can see through it. So you make your ringed blade wall 60-10 of damage. They finally get out. Second level to put them back in is crazy good. Crazy good use of your second level spell.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a spell that by itself is situational, but then it's easy to make those situations come up.
Definitely.
Yes. I like this spell a lot, I think.
I
don't think it's broken by any means.
Either.
I think it's a fun spell. Yeah, cool combinations.
Right. Like telling me that you had to use, a 6th level spell to make the bad area happen, plus a 2nd level spell and your entire action the next turn just to have it guaranteed come off. It makes it's a interesting position where it adds value to your other spells, which you don't see that very often in spells.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm actually perfectly good with this one. This does not get banned at the table. Yes. This one's good.
Hooray. I don't think we have anybody who could pick it, but hooray.
Not right now.
Sorcerer, Wizard. Nope, not now.
Things are almost
Future
over.
Campaigns. Yeah. Yeah. And you could also use this then, the obvious, pulling your party out of dangerous situations. So let's say the enemy casts Maelstrom or Wall of Swords or whatever other terrible thing. You could just yoink and save them right from that.
Just cool. Like I feel like that's really awesome when that happens.
Yeah. Or I like the idea of you're setting up a big AoE and the barbarians in the middle. It's like the barbarians surrounded by nothing but enemies, and they're like not leaving because they're not getting it. And it's like you, the artificer, and then the wizards really want to drop a fireball. And so the wizard holds their fireball to the barbarians not in range, and then the artificer, all right, you're done, and pulls them back. And then fireball goes off. Crap like that. Yeah. I like that, yeah.
Very scenic.
Yes. Scenic?
Yeah, like a nice drive down a mountainside. That's not the word I was looking for.
Flavorful, fun.
Yeah, but...
stylish?
Cinematic. That was actually what I was trying to say.
Cinematic. There you go. Okay.
Like a beautiful forest.
Yes.
Last... on the list, we have Wither and Bloom, a 2nd level necromancy spell on the Druid, Sorcerer, and Wizard list. So this has a casting time of 1 action, a range of 60 feet, and components verbal, somatic, and material. It's a withered vine twisted into a loop. Ooh. Duration is instantaneous. And we have you invoke both death and life upon a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point within range. Each creature of your choice in that area must make a con saving throw, taking 2d6 necrotic damage on a fail, or half as much damage on a successful one. Non-magical vegetation in that area withers. In addition, one creature of your choice in that area can spend and roll one of its unspent hit dice and regain a number of HP equal to the roll plus your spellcasting modifier. And then at higher levels, you can do an extra d6 of damage, and you can do, and the number of hit dice that can be spent and added to the healing roll increases by 1 for each slot above 2nd. So if you cast it at 3rd level, then they can roll 2 healing dice or hit dice.
So to summarize that, it's a 10-foot radius sphere AoE. Enemies in it, con save or take 2d6 necrotic damage, and then you could pick somebody to heal. And they could use their unspent hit dice.
Yeah,
one of its unspent hit dice.
Yeah, one of its unspent hit dice. I love that concept. Regardless of the damage aspect of it, I mean, 2d6 necrotic damage for a second level spell is nothing crazy, but
that's really not great.
I like that idea of letting somebody expend a hit die to heal themselves and giving hit dice another use, because I feel like most of the time hit dice go unspent in a day. It's not to say they always do, but it just gives another way to use them, and it's very well balanced around that fact that if they do have a long day and a lot of short rests and such, it's that question of, do I need the health right now or do I want to wait until later? And I don't know, it gives it to wizards as well, so gives them a way to do a bit of healing.
Yeah, a bit. All the numbers are just really low. Second level spell, and it's like, 2d6 necrotic damage. On a con save, which we just finished talking about, is past a lot. And then one creature can regain one hit die.
It seems kind of overtuned, doesn't it? Like they saw the potential here and they were like, we got to just kind of dial it back just a little.
Yeah, I think getting rid of the one creature stipulation, just like any creature of your choice within this, because like it's 10-foot radius is not that crazy big. So if you hit two allies, they could both do it, that sort of thing.
Yeah, that would be kind of nice.
Yeah, the problem is it gets abusable out of combat.
How so?
How?
A little.
Because I mean, that is a second level spell to get one hit dice spent.
It's no healing spirit.
Hit dice.
No, yeah.
That's. I think they saw that and they're like, oh, let's not add more fuel to the fire.
And it does spend the hit dice, so that like they can't use it later on a short rest. So all right, so let's say everyone groups up and you get it off perfect and it's 5 hit dice are restored. For a second level spell, if you do second level cure wounds, it's 2d8 plus, well, I guess this one does add your spellcasting modifier. So it is more than like just a cure wounds, you're right.
Cure wounds adds your spellcasting modifier?
It does, yes.
Okay.
But we're talking like if your party of 4 or 5
gotcha. Yeah.
Hit dice plus spellcasting modifier versus 2d8 plus spellcasting modifier.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess this is a hard one to theory craft on. I'd be curious to see at an actual table how much use it gets. The idea of not having to give up your entire action just to heal is kind of nice. How would it work on an unconscious creature? They would, as I'm reading it, be able to, if they're near it, they'd be able to spend that hit die and regain HP. So if something's like crowding around your fallen comrade and you want to cast Wither and Bloom, you get them up and you do damage. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about it. The target can't be incapacitated or anything like that. And being incapacitated does not take away your hit dice. So
yeah, and that's my instinct is that's the point where it would be most useful. The problem, though, is it's still not doing a great job competing with, say, a second level healing word and then a cantrip. So if you do that, if you have that option, like a druid, for instance, as a druid, I have Chill Touch, which is going to outdamage this outside of multiple hits. It's just not a great trade.
Yeah, 10-foot radius is pretty big, so there's at least that. But you're right, unless you're able to hit 3 or 4 enemies with this, you're probably better off throwing a healing word out and a cantrip, do some damage. Because there are cantrips that can do AoEs. I think Acid Splash, if they're standing right next to each other, that can work. So
yeah, I think it hits one other one in 5 feet, yeah.
But this can be upcast too. So just to, again, if you have that situation where there's 2, maybe 3 around and you want to cast it at 3rd, 4th level, then you're allowing your fallen comrade to heal more, which is great, and you're doing a lot more damage in that case.
Yeah, it still just seems low. Now we're talking about a 3rd level spell to do 3d6 necrotic damage.
Well, it wouldn't be 3d6 necrotic damage. It'd be 3d6 on each of the enemies. That's kind of the point with AoEs. You can't really base it off just that.
Okay, but still, it's Fireball's a 3rd level spell, and that's...
Fireball doesn't heal people, it kills people.
Yes, I mean, obviously it's different spells, but this heals one person then for 2 hit dice in your ability.
Right.
Score
with
a modifier.
just your
where again, sure, or yeah, you use your bone. I still then go back to 3rd level healing word plus...
So then we're saying
I just think it's just a little too weak. I don't think the damage is there.
That's fair. So we're saying for a druid, then it's probably there's better options. For a sorcerer, for a wizard, how do they heal?
Do they not
For a sorcerer or a wizard, it's probably better to blow up the entire area and wait for the cleric to fix the problem.
That's making assumptions that you have a cleric. So I'm not saying that it is super strong or that it will be the go-to option, but if you're a wizard or sorcerer and you don't have any other healing in your party, this isn't a bad use.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I'd say it is pretty party dependent. I would not recommend that a wizard takes this if they have a life cleric in their party. Don't waste your time on picking this spell.
Right, definitely.
So overall thoughts on the spells? That's the end of the list here.
They're fine. I like that they're lower level because those get a lot more play and just a lot more, seeing a lot more at tables.
Yeah, it is always disappointing when you see a cool 9th level spell and it's like, wow, I'll never use that.
Right. And I would say these are all across the board, like from broken to worthless.
Is that a positive that you're saying? Like it's a good thing
No.
that they're across the board?
No.
Okay. We could definitely rank these. I know we're not going to rank them, but we could say the top five spells in Strixhaven. It's only 5.
Yes. In no particular order. And then just read them back alphabetically.
I got to be honest. If this book and everything in it was effaced from the earth, never to be seen again, the only thing I would miss is Vortex Warp. I really like Vortex Warp.
I really like Vortex Warp.
Yeah. So I think we are being too harsh on the book as a whole. This is absolutely a campaign adventure book. And these are intended for options within that campaign. And we'll keep going back to, if that's what you're playing, great. This is not supposed to be another Tasha's. It's not supposed to be Xanathar's.
Okay.
Not even supposed to be a Fizzbon's, which is just kind of like, here's some extra dragon crap.
Counterpoint. It was supposed to be another Fizzbon's. They had classes in here. They took them out a week before or 2 weeks before printing because the UA did so poorly.
That was the one where you had the non-class dependent class features.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Which we predicted would be impossible to tune.
Yeah. And we were like,
okay.
And so everyone hated that. It was supposed to be in Strixhaven. They released the UA to get people hyped for it. The community lost their minds for good reason. I really didn't like any of those.
Right.
And yeah, so that was all supposed to be in this book. If that was included, I would be a little bit less upset. Or if subclasses were
you'd probably be more upset.
Yeah, I would say if subclasses were included, I would be less upset. If those subclasses were included, I would be more upset. So I don't know. Okay. I mean, if you really want to play in Wizard School, yes, you are correct. This is a fine book for you. But for people who are looking for anything else, like even just to say like, oh yeah, let's add a couple spells and I want to add the owl race. Like it's not necessary. Do not buy. I know we don't normally like do reviews specifically. That's not the point of this. We just like talking about new features and stuff. That's fine.
Right.
But like, I don't recommend this book. Unless you want to play that campaign.
Chapter 2, yes.
Unless you want to play the campaign.
Exactly, yes. Or I put in like a magical school in whatever your homebrew thing is. And
I still don't think it's necessary. Like you can just make a magical school.
Yeah, you can, but it helps. Just like Out of the Abyss is also just a really great Underdark setting book. Yeah. Even if you're not playing Out of the Abyss, it's still kind of worthwhile for inspiration. Because keep in mind, this is a 7-chapter book. We reviewed part of chapter 2. I don't feel like we're in a place to say, oh, don't buy this book. If it got deleted off the face of the earth, it'll be fine. It's like, all right, we don't like the character options just generally available to the world. You're right. It's not really worth it for that. But
okay, well, to add on, I've looked over all of chapter 2, and none of it is worthwhile. The magic items aren't that interesting either.
All right.
The backgrounds are only interesting in this. Either way, you are correct that I am trying to frame this from if you are looking for character options, don't buy this. If you're looking for the setting and all of that, I have no opinion because I didn't read it.
Right. I said you probably already have made up your mind.
Yeah. I've made up my mind, but I wasn't going to read it anyways.
Right.
I don't like wizards.
No, I mean, if you're a person who hears Strixhaven, like, oh, that's great. I really want to run a magical school adventure. It's like, you've made up your mind. You're probably just going to buy it if you can.
Exactly. All right. Well, I believe that's
all of it.
Yeah. But luckily what never disappoints me is Metallic Dice Games. With the code MM10, you can get 10% off on any set of dice or dice accessories or just your entire purchase. I mean, really, whatever they have on there. And yeah, you won't be disappointed. That's our guarantee. It's not a money-back guarantee. It's just like a verbal guarantee that you'll support the show and you won't be disappointed because at the very least you supported the show, right?
But you have no recourse with us if you
not with us. No, I guess if you're not satisfied, maybe contact Metallic Dice Games. And luckily they don't watch every episode.
What are we doing?
Well, we're just telling the people what they want to hear. That there's a guarantee that they're going to love what they get. But if they don't, Thank you as always to our patrons, Jeff W., Joe P., Vincent M., Isaac M., Sentinel D20, Star Shinobi, Adam A., Home Bakery, Ed G., Bob F., Craig A., and welcoming Brian H. So thank you so much to all of you. You're lovely. And yeah, if you want to get most often early releases of the episodes, then head on to our Patreon or just supporting the show. That's kind of the main thing. We're not offering that much. Wow, selling it today. If you want to support the show, then you can go to monstersmulticlass.com/support and find all of our social media links and all of our affiliates and everything else.
Yep. All right, and as always, thanks for watching. One of the smoothest outros we've ever done.
What a banger of an episode.